Good afternoon. The July 20th meeting of the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust will be in order. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes for the meeting of July 6th.
Move approval.
Second. Have a motion and a second to approve the agenda, to approve the minutes. Voting, please. Minutes are approved. Next item is the consent docket.
Move the consent docket subject to individual consideration. Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket. Are there matters to be looked at individually?
I just have a quick question on 3A.1, and I hope I know the answer to this. The variances that we're requiring will have no impact on the quality of the water coming out of the plant?
Yes, sir. It's our obligation to prove that that's the case. We have operated the Hafner Water Plant in a manner that will support that. There was a variance, I believe, that we have not done previously, but all indications are other utilities have, and that our water should be consistent and perform very well.
Okay, so what we're doing won't change the quality of the water coming out of Hafner?
That's correct.
Well,
We'll meet drinking water standards.
Okay. Will it taste the same?
We're hoping for better as time goes on.
Further comments? Any other matters to be discussed separately? Hearing none, voting please. Consent docket passes unanimously. Next item is item 4. It's a concurrence docket. It's a matter from the city's agenda.
Move concurrence.
Second.
Motion and a second on item 4. Questions, discussion? Voting please. Item 4 is approved. Item 5 is emergency construction contract. Require unanimous vote for approval.
Move the resolution be adopted.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve item 5. Are there questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, for the audience, this is a response to building about 250 feet of 12-inch water main along the north side of Memorial Road, east of Meridian, to resolve multiple breaks that occurred over a series of a couple of weeks. That project was completed successfully. It was difficult work at 15 feet deep. The customers have been restored to reliable service.
I appreciate your efforts because there was a dialysis center out there that was really impacted by lack of water. Thank you very much for the quick response.
Given the unusual weather that we've had so far, have we noticed any appreciable difference in line breaks or emergencies?
Of course, the different major emergencies that Oklahoma City had was the tornado and the hailstorm and the floods. We've felt punished a little bit, but in terms of main breaks, it's been a modestly wet year over the last 12 months. Since about the middle of July of last year, we had pretty temperate or constantly wet soils. Again, not a huge increase in the total rain amount that we saw. And what that did was decrease our total number of waterline breaks from about 1,400 to about 1,200 last year. So we'd like to think that things were getting better, but I think statistically we're staying on a normal path of things not growing worse. And it wasn't necessarily our investment in replacement so much as it was after the middle of July. Fewer harsh weather days that impact water pipes. We certainly had our share of harsh weather, it just didn't impact the pipes.
Mr. Chairman, I hope you're not jinxing the water director by asking her how well the system's holding together in 2 weeks of very hot weather, and she has to report that it's holding together pretty well.
All right. Well, you'll remember I suffered through a period of time when the water lines were breaking major breaks back 25 years ago, and it's something that I always wonder about when I see a line break, whether we're getting ready to have another epidemic or not.
I think very, very hot, dry weather. Last summer, the first couple of weeks in July, we saw some corrosion breaks flashed, particularly in Ward 5 or around the Western Avenue and around 142nd, I think, that produced some main replacement projects. That can happen in extreme dry conditions when pressure jumps up a little bit.
Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, voting please. Passes unanimously. Next item is item 6. It's acceptance of some easements along in the vicinity of Southwest 146th and Penn and 149th and Portland.
Move we accept the easements.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve, accept the permanent easements. Comments? Hearing none, voting please. Passes unanimously. The next item is item 7, reports.
Will we receive the report?
Second.
A motion and a second to receive the reports. Is there need to discuss any of them separately?
Mr. Chairman, I would draw your attention to the general status report for the utility, with the exception of Lake Draper. The lakes throughout our system are full. We, in fiscal year 10, sold 2,867 new water meters. Our system peak rate of water sales was a one-time year of 4,700 water meters. This was normal to slightly below normal. If we look at a 1.5% growth rate in meter sales, 1.5% rate of meter sales contrasted to total meters, that is very close to 1.5%, but a number we haven't seen in a few years because of the rapid growth we saw in the late 2000 decade. The income for both water and sewer was down $2.2 million each in the fiscal year. That appears to me to be consistent with weather, but is, of course, something that we're very concerned about and will watch carefully. Again, we had a very wet winter, which impacts our wintertime average sewer billing. We want to look at the details of those billings, and we'll do so to make certain we can understand what's going on for our commercial customers. Again, I believe we're within normal bounds, but we're watching it carefully, and we'll continue to report.
Further comments, questions? We have a motion and a second to receive the report. Voting, please. Reports are received. Next item is item 8. First item on the individual consideration docket is the ratification of the water utilities trust payments for June 9th through July 13th.
Move the payments be ratified.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to ratify the payments. Questions? Voting, please. Payments are ratified. Next item is item 8B, approval of the fiscal year loan agreement between the trust and the McGee Creek Authority.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the loan agreement. Are there questions or comments? Hearing none, voting please. The agreement's approved unanimously. The next item is the request for proposals for revenue bond underwriter services.
Will we approve the RFP?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the RFP for underwriter services. Are there questions or comments? Voting, please. It's approved. The next item, item 8D, our authorization to execute a consent order and pay a $10,749.58 penalty for killing fish.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve item 8D. Is there comments or questions?
Just a question, how long did that manhole run?
The actual report was not a very long time. Unfortunately, it wasn't in an area where we could see it. And so we don't have an accurate rate. We are confident it killed fish based on the ODWC's report, and that does necessarily carry with it a fine of $10,000. Again, grease blockage with some structural damage, and not in a place where we could see it.
Okay.
Further questions, comments?
Is there a standard price for fish? That's about $2 a fish. Is that what they...
The fine is of $10,000, yes, and then the, yes, $749.58 is the price for fish.
You can get them out of our fish hatchery and just give them...
You know,
I just...
No.
we want that to never happen, and it's on your docket, so that it makes certain that we feel properly reminded.
Further comments? Voting, please. Resolution approved. Next item is the resolution extending services concerning utility billing system.
Move the resolution be adopted.
Second?
A motion and a second to approve item 8E. Questions or comments? Voting, please. 8E is approved. 8F, resolution concerning the breakwater at Draper.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve item 8F. Are there questions or comments? Voting, please. 8F is approved. Item 8G is a joint resolution between the city and the trust directing the general manager to negotiate concerning the Ninth Amendment to the service agreement.
Move the resolution be adopted.
Second. But I have a question. When we decide that the negotiations might not be successful and then go for RFP, we have a time in mind?
We would recommend, too, that if we haven't reached agreement by the end of this calendar year, that we proceed so that you have all the options available to you with preparation of an RFP and beginning that process.
Are there many other entities out there that could provide the same kind of service?
Many is an overstatement. There's several.
Okay. So we would get some legitimate requests probably from our,
Yes,
responses, rather.
yes.
Thank you.
Are there further questions? To avoid what may be the appearance of a conflict, I'm going to recuse. Everybody else ready to vote? It's approved. Item 8H, approval of the resolution approving the fiscal year 11 through 15 capital improvement plan.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Samandi is here with us today. I would like to share with you some information about our 5-year capital improvement plan. The plan is developed on an almost continuous basis using several tools that we have in our toolbox. It's always a challenge, and one of the things we've done since we presented the CIP to you in January is to make certain we had looked at particular locations of system strengthening. We're not addressing all possible problems that may exist in the system, but we're focusing on some large delivery issues of reliability in this program for both water and sewer.
Good afternoon. My name is Sam Samandi, and I'm the Utilities Engineering Manager. What we're proposing here is for the next 5 years what our capital program should be. When we put the CIP together, the overriding issue for us is to make sure we have reliable service and provide good quality water service to everyone. Our CIP is usually divided into two parts, the water side and the wastewater side. The water capital plan is essentially addressing most of the needs of the system within the 5 years. This slide right here shows our distribution system along with the major water treatment plants around Draper Lake and the Hefner Lake and Overholser. As you can see on this chart, our reach is pretty wide from the south to north and the east to west. And the challenges that we face on the water system is that we want to make sure we have adequate pressure for everybody, and we want to make sure that the flow gets to everybody. And also we want to make sure that our system is strong enough that when we have failure, we can respond pretty quickly and have provisions for growth and expansion in the future. The basis for all of that stuff is done through different things. One of the major studies that was done for us to establish a guideline for us for the future was the Water Master Plan that was done in 2003. We have also recently finished a study that pays a lot of attention to the raw water supply system for central Oklahoma. It was completed last year, 2009. In addition to those two studies, we continue to do in-house condition assessment to address our immediate needs. This particular slide deals with the water pressure issues that we have in the system. Previously, we had issues around I-35 and Bryant Avenue and I-240 and Tinker area with low pressures. Those issues were resolved by constructing a new booster station and redirecting flows from another booster station to address issues there. But we still have issues, and most of our emphasis is toward north and west of the city to take care of. One would be around just east of the airport area on the south side. We still have some low pressure issues when peak demands are around us, and also providing a lot of water and addressing pressures out in the very west side of town. And as you will see in the next slide, there's a lot of issues around northwest part of town that we want to make sure we address. This particular picture shows the growth of the city within the past few years. When the master plan was completed, as you can see on this slide, they predicted growth in the northwest and south of the city and west of the city and in the dark red shaded areas. But since then, we've also seen additional growth shown in the orange shaded area. This particular slide shows a different kind of a growth pattern. This shows all the customers that we've had on our system, including solid waste customers. The gray dots that you see on this graph are from 2004 to 2008, and the red ones are from 2008 to now. As you can see, there's a tremendous amount of growth in the town in the areas that we need to make sure we deliver water, good quality and good pressure, especially north, directly north, northwest, central west, and southwest part of town. What we're proposing to do in the next 5 years is to spend about $272 million, somewhere around an average of a little over $54 million a year. To give you an overview of the CIP, there's 5 areas we're trying to hit in the next 5 years. We want to make sure we continue with our neighborhood replacement, deal with the transmission mains, and build the storage and pumping facilities, and pay a lot of attention to improving and increasing our capacities at the water treatment plants. And not to forget the raw water supply, which is a big issue that we want to deal with. And those 5 categories are addressed in this CIP program. This particular slide shows all of those improvements in a graphical mode. The blue dot shows where we plan to do a lot of neighborhood replacement, and the red lines show the major improvements on the strengthening our system and delivery of our system to the west and east and directly southwest of town. This particular slide shows the water project that we intend to do based on different types. 53% of all the CIP on the water side is going to go toward treatment aspect of our system. And another major part, 21% for transmission main. And the raw water supply is about 11%, and the distribution system improvements about 9%, to mention those major ones here. The neighborhood replacement, we plan to do about 20 projects within the next 5 years, somewhere around 7 miles per year, and that's replacing about 24% of our distribution system. Transmission mains, the extension from Draper continues on. We started it in the previous CIP program, and we're going to continue on all the way to just north of the Will Rogers Airport. The goal is to get to the west side of town on Reno, shown on this graph in dashed line. And the other part of the CIP is adding strengthening to the system from Hefner Water Treatment Plant to the east and west. This past summer, we had a failure of the line that's going out of the Hefner Water Treatment Plant, and it was a concrete pipe, and it caused a bit of havoc to the west side of town. So we have brought in a project that was already designed a little bit up front to take care of it, and that should come to the trust hopefully in the month of August. And the other improvement that we want to do, it's a concrete pipe, it's a 16-inch pipe. It's right across from Tinker Air Force. We want to make sure that that's replaced in time. Another part of the CIP on the water side is adding storage and pumping to the system. This is slated to be somewhere around south of the airport in Oklahoma City, and it's going to cost us somewhere around $11 million. Water treatment plant improvement, we're putting our emphasis, of course, on the Hefner Water Treatment Plant. We plan to expand it from existing 75 MGD to 100 MGD, and improvements would include adding another pump at the pump station and include another chemical feed building and provide surge protection for the facilities and do some more additional improvements on the low-lift pump station. The Draper treatment plants include electrical upgrades and improvements on the high-service pump station delivery of water. This is going to get into a little more deeper detail on what we're planning to do at the Hefner Water Treatment Plant. It's estimated it will cost us somewhere around $50 million. And we're planning to add another new clarifier, add a new CO2 facilities and backwash facilities, and add more filtration capacity that the plant needs. On the raw water supply side, this is a nice slide that shows all of the important elements of the southeastern raw water supply. On the top of the slide, you'll see Draper Water Treatment Plant, and all the way down to bottom, you'll see Atoka, McGee Creek, and a connection to the Kiamichi River Basin and the Sardis Lake on the north side of that. In this CIP, of course, we plan to do the second Atoka pipeline, parallel to the existing pipeline. We've already started the environmental study on that particular portion, and we plan to start the engineering, preliminary engineering on the second Atoka pipeline as well. The raw water supply from the Sardis-Kiamichi Basin we plan to start. We hope that this is a real community partnership with the communities around Oklahoma City and everybody else along the pathway. And we plan to start the environmental study and engineering as well. So monies are assigned to those projects. Another big project that we'd like to start is the evaluation of connection of northwest system of Oklahoma City and the southeastern side. It is the connection of Hefner and Draper either by a raw water or a treated water system. We plan to study this and see what's the advantage of either way and decide what's the best way to go. All of that stuff we anticipate to cost somewhere around $272 million. Now I'll start up on the wastewater side of the capital improvement plan. This particular slide shows all the drainage basin in Oklahoma City that we serve. On the north side, you see Deer Creek Water Treatment Plant and the basin and the Chisholm. And on the south side, you see South Canadian. And then our biggest wastewater treatment plant is located on North Canadian Basin, which also serves all of the wastewater that is pumped from Witcher Pump Station from the Deep Fork Basin into that basin. Of course, everybody remembers we had a recent flooding of the Witcher Pump Station, which we've got to take care of. And we have an engineer working on that project to make improvements to the station, and we'll make provisions to make sure we have protection against flooding. The same kind of challenges we face on the wastewater as we did on the water. We want to make sure our system has sufficient capacity in the collection system and in the treatment plants to handle the flows. And we want to strengthen the system and have provisions for growth for future. The basis of all of those decisions for the CIP are made by these studies that we've done. We have completed the wastewater master plan just last year, 2009. And then also we did an in-house study in order to respond to an EPA request about the collection system in our treatment plant system. And then also we have a consent order with the Department of Environmental Quality that tells us these are the areas that we need to improve on. In this CIP, we're hitting on the neighborhood replacement projects, adding relief mains to the system. We're going to make improvements to the plants and a lift station improvement that we have slated. The total cost of this capital improvement is somewhere around $191 million, close to about $38 million a year. This particular slide shows an overview of all of the projects we plan to do. The blue dots you see on that particular chart are the neighborhood improvements we plan to work at, and the red line are showing the relief line improvements we plan to do. The little circle in the middle is an area that was recommended by the master planners to do additional study, I&I study, flow monitoring of the flows, and see what improvements can be made without building a whole lot of other interceptors to relieve the existing system. The wastewater project types here, most of the money is slated to go toward large main relief lines, the interceptors. And then after that, there's a lot of money for plant improvements and the collector system, and some money for the pumping, which is mainly associated with the Witcher pump station. Neighborhood rehab, somewhere around 25 to 30 projects for the next 5 years. We're doing a little bit better on this side. We're doing about 0.43% of system replacement per year, about 11 miles per year of replacement. And we're going to do I&I study and spend about $29.5 million on that. Relief mains are in every basin within our reach, Chisholm, Deer, near the North Canadian and the South Canadian, and we spent about $45 million, we hope. The relief mains are shown on this particular slide in red. Most of it is around Chisholm Creek and then South Canadian, and some in the heart of the city with the North Canadian basin. Lift station improvements is primarily is for improvement around Witcher pump station. We're planning to replace some old pumps and add VFDs and replace the existing meters with new ones, and make sure that the North Lagoon that serves the pump station is also taken care of. We also have additional pump station that we're going to make improvements to, so the total cost is somewhere around $22 million, we believe. Wastewater plant improvements, as everyone knows, we're currently working at the Chisholm plant to expand the capacity to about 10 MGD. In this next CIP, we plan to expand to 11.5 MGD, provided we reach an agreement with Edmund. We're also doing a big project on the South Canadian wastewater treatment plant side, building a big equalization basin to hold water when we have a lot of rain and process through the plant. And we're adding a clarifier to Deer Creek. We're going to start evaluating that and see if that's really needed, but that's what we plan to do. And the old Dungey plant, that it's a small plant, we're hoping that we can replace that with something a lot better and new. And provisions in the CIP to deal with odor issues as they come up. The total cost somewhere around $53.5 million. All of that stuff put together is about $191 million for the capital improvement plan. This particular slide shows the water and wastewater altogether for the next 5 years adds up to about $463 million. That's close to about $95-96 million a year. This last slide that we have here puts everything in kind of a summary deal here. The CIP that we have here does not include the initial water supply payment that we made for the Stardust deal in June of 2010. But the financial and rate plans will take that into account. This slide also shows us what we are thinking about this existing the next 5 years. We're looking at FY 11 to 20, and as you can see, the total for the total CIP is about $1.5 billion. That brings me to the end of this, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
A question, Sam, on the Chisholm Creek Interceptor.
Yes.
When do you expect to have that finished? Shows expenditures clear out to 14.
Yes. Our plan is to continue the interceptor all the way to close to about Northwest 115 and Penn Avenue. Right now, we have construction all the way to the Memorial Road. So depending on what easements and stuff we get, the next phase is supposed to go into construction. That would bring us to almost 122nd. We plan to advertise that before the end of this year. So the construction of that will take probably about a year and a half or so to finish. And then the next phase of it, which brings us to the end of it, will probably be by the end of this 5-year CIP plan.
Can we unequivocally say that none of the work we did in the vicinity of Chisholm Creek contributed in any way to the flooding that we experienced out there?
I doubt it. You know, the Chisholm Creek is a very narrow basin, and so it is prone to some flooding when we have a lot of rain. You know, what we have noticed with these interceptors that we've put in the past few years, we've buttoned up the system, and more flows are going to wastewater treatment plant as it exists today.
We did, as we built the relief main coming from the Chisholm plant south, we did check with stormwater on any crossing that was going to make an impact in flow. We, in most cases, actually improved the flow by coming through and doing a little, not regrading in a negative way, but cleaning out of trees in the stream and things like that. I think Sam said, I doubt it. We have not run the calculations personally, looking at all of the details, but no, we believe there was no impact that was discernible.
Okay.
We believe we had a horrific flood in that area.
On the odor control project, is there any money specifically identified to go to the Deer Creek plant?
It can. What we have is just an allocation for odor improvement. As we find them, we can apply it to any other plants that we see.
And the approach that we plan is, as we touch the structures that are high in odors, for example, primary clarifiers, sludge facilities, to work on odor control applications at those locations. So in the case of Deer Creek, we have a clarifier planned.
Yeah.
Primary clarifier.
We have clarifier, and I think we're going to add a little bit more belt filter press facilities at Deer Creek and then ventilation systems and stuff to the facility to remedy a little bit of that odor issues that might be.
Because we occasionally get calls from the Deer Creek area.
We do.
Thank you.
Further questions on the CIP plan? We have a motion.
Move we accept the plan.
Second.
Motion and a second to accept the plan. Voting, please. Plan's accepted. That ends the regular portion of the docket. Is there any new business? Comments from trustees, staff, or citizens?
Mr. Chairman, I thought that the trust would like to know that we are running the Atoka pipeline. The project is proceeding very well. By that I mean the rehabilitation of the pump stations on the Atoka pipeline. The engineer is less optimistic than the construction contractor about the completion date for the pipeline. We face one more long shutdown later this summer. Again, pumps are running. We're not 100% keeping up with the current demand with all the evaporation we're seeing on the lakes now, but we're doing better. Lake Draper's at 1,175 feet, definitely 75 feet today. That's about 15 feet low. We expect it again to drop a little bit more. That will allow us to work on the breakwater and to clean the shoreline that's been exposed in the last several months. But the good news is the project could finish as early as December. We think as late as next June, but it is just proceeding very, very well, and that will help us in our total recovery plan, bringing the lake back and getting back to normal.
Further comments? Hearing none, we are adjourned.